well?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
We are on channel 6, by the way.
Yeah. And this is test area 1.
Oh, I think. Ich hab's mitgenommen.
Manual Skidpad event. We already have the first car lining up at the starting line. A car that we've seen in pretty much the exact same spot yesterday afternoon for the driverless Skidpad. Car number 50 from Lisbon is making the first manual attempt of the day. Let's hope the timing equipment survives this one. Very flamboyant, untimed right-hand turn already. Slowing down for the left-hand side. I think the car actually has a blue underglow beneath it. Looks very cool. Looks like the car is slightly faster in manual mode than they were in the driverless discipline yesterday. A decent banker lap in their first run with their first driver. Let's see if he can improve the second time around. Good and stable second run from Lisboa here. Not much of an improvement, but a good benchmark on the timing table for the rest of today. Already lining up again is Porto, second car we've seen on track today. Big cheers from the grandstands back there. Car without aero. Of course, for the Skidpad doesn't really make that much of a difference. It is much quieter from what I can hear.
And across the line in a 6.27 on the first attempt of the first driver. Very Portuguese tinted morning that we're having here.
The driver opting for the second run, as he should.
And an improvement on the second run of nearly 0.2, now a 6.12.
Yeah. These are the sort of times that we were seeing from the driverless cars yesterday as well. I do hope that we see that speeding up as the day progresses. Maybe the third car of the day can give it a shot. Car number 122.
That is Deefholt Dynamics from US Deepholts.
Car definitely sounds as smooth as it looks right now. No problems in counting the right number of laps to the right and the left.
Yes, and they actually equal the first time of the Porto car with a 6.27.
Interestingly, the driver is immediately opting to exit the skid pad again after the first run. Normally I'd expect a driver to immediately rejoin for a second run, but who knows what the Deefholt guys have in store in terms of strategy for today.
Listen, that appears to be it for the opening rush at the moment. I see there is one more car in the queue about to approach. Can't quite make out the number from here though. It is car number 44 in the queue, Fast Forest Deggendorf.
After a brief intermezzo of the fire truck crossing, the dynamic area here. Deggendorf is finally making their way to the starting line. We already saw this car yesterday in the driverless events. Just like Lisboa, we now expect to see a comparison time finally.
Well, it's already looking much faster than the driverless time of yesterday, which was a 15.29. And it is much faster with a 6.23. The Deggendorf driver going for their second run. And the right loop is already an improvement, a 6.05 versus a 6.28. And the left-hand loop is an improvement as well. 6.08 versus a 6.19 for an improved time overall of 6.06 versus 6.23.
Update from the queue. Shiny Nürnberg car is being pushed past me, car number 148.
Skidpad, hast du die Seite von den...
And the Nuremberg car has completed their final checks and has made their way over to the starting position of the Skidpad. Let's see how they can do.
Looks good. Media guys in the right-hand circle. Definitely having a field day with the driving cars.
Slight adjustment at the end of the first circle there, the first loop. And across the line with a 5.28, the fastest time of the day so far. And we appear to be having a slight issue with the large timing screens on the track. Not sure what that issue is, but in the meantime, if you go on over to tk.formulastudent.de, you will be able to see the live timing for all the events taking place today and throughout the rest of the weekend.
Now joining us here in the first run queue, University of Strathclyde, one of the few British teams that we have the pleasure of hosting here at FSG. I think definitely the first electric car that I've seen from them. As always, the scrutineers present here in the queue are giving the driver a quick once-over, check if all the gear is appropriately fastened into the car, giving the wheels a tug, making sure that as little as possible can go wrong here on the manual skid pad. Maybe this is also a good time to mention that while we are having some glitches with the live timing screens and we are doing the kindness of reading the times out, any times that we say, or anything else for that matter, that we as commentators say here is absolutely not to be considered as the official word of the FSG organization. We're just here to provide entertainment. Also, any times that are posted on the screens and that we read out are excluded. Created its own rule set. The overlap between what is compliant with the FSAE rules and the FSG rules is slightly reduced. That's why it's always good to see British teams. I think last year we also had only one here at the site. This is an electric car on top of all that as well.
And here we go, Strathclyde making their way over to the starting area. And in the meantime, a very yellow car, number 364 from the University of Malaga, has joined the queue.
All sorts of noises are emanating from the Strathclyde car as it completes its right-hand turn. Left-hand timed lap commencing right now. I think this is the most combustion-sounding electric car we've definitely had here so far at the event.
Stop stealing my lines, Jonas. And they go across the line with a 6.189. And this driver also opting not to go for their second attempt immediately, but to leave the track.
Malaga has fired up. Seems to have some trouble to get started though. Looks like it's stuck in neutral. Engine is off again. Queued up right behind them, it's car number 288, definitely the most purple car that I've seen all day. Not sure if I dare to pronounce that name. Oulu? Oulu.
The team is from Finland, and Finnish, of course, a famously difficult language for a lot of people to figure out.
Malaga has got it going though. Quick off and on again, did the trick, rolling up to the starting line.
See Malaga have completed their first right-hand loop, going for the timed one now. And now the timed left-hand loop. Car looking very stable, buzzing around like a bee. And they make it across the line with a 6.237. Malaga's driver, yes, choosing to go for the second run immediately. Let's see what kind of improvement he can make. Already nearly a second faster on the right-hand loop.
Definitely looks faster as well. That's usually a good sign at Skidpad.
And it is a good sign indeed, finishing with a 5.776, an improvement of half a second on their first attempt.
Being waved from towards the starting position now. I've checked in with the team members and I'll try this again. It's the University of Oulu. Another combustion car. Of course, this is maybe a good time to mention that this is the last time that we'll be seeing combustion teams here at Formula Student Germany. The combustion class is being phased out here. We'll also be seeing the historic combustion class a little bit later today in the afternoon at the acceleration to commemorate this occasion.
Completing their first attempt with a time of a 5.938. Let's see if the driver chooses to go for the second run immediately. Yes, he does. Let's see what he can do. Going faster on their right-hand loop, but unfortunately clipping a cone. But the left-hand side is clean and also an improvement, finishing with a time of 5.585.
The queue now positively bristling with activity. We have car number 101 from Mannheim waiting at the front of the first queue and joining right behind them. It's car number 69, that looks like Hawks from Hamburg.
Yes, not the other Hawks from
Göttingen.
Göttingen. Oh, some more shades of purple for you, Jonas.
Yeah, we're collecting purple so far. We've had Oulu, we've had Hawks. Yesterday we saw Trondheim with a very dark shade of purple.
Team's trying to manifest some purple times, perhaps.
I guess.
Meanwhile, the current purple time on the Skidpad belongs to car number 148 from Nuremberg with a time of 5.282. But I'm sure we'll see improvements on that throughout the day. At the very least from Nuremberg on their second attempt, or their second driver. And as Mannheim makes their way over to the starting position, we have one more car joining us in the queue. Number 323 from the University of Stralsund.
Mannheim had a little bit of trouble getting going and it had to charge a couple of times. At least we heard the ready to drive sound a couple of times. But they're off on their first right-hand lap. Just like with the driverless discipline yesterday, it's a bit of a gamble to see if the drivers manage to drive the skid pad correctly. As per the rules, it's 2 right-hand turns followed by 2 left-hand turns. Even the computers were struggling with that sometimes yesterday, let alone a driver that's focusing on going as fast as possible around an eternal corner.
And the Mannheim driver sets a first time of 5.900. But speaking of performing the discipline correctly, I do remember one time, I think it might have even been a Delft driver, doing 2 left-hand loops and then 2 right-hand loops, so flipping them around.
And that's also not the way it's meant to be played. There are rules about this. For those of you playing along at home, the timing is available at tk.formulastudent.de. Some of the people present here at the track might also want to check that out, since the two big timing screens that we have up are still not quite working right. Timekeeping and IT guys are hopefully getting that sorted soon. When I'm on the second attempt, already on the left-hand side.
Looking quicker than the first one, I would say.
Giving it the beans across the finish, as they should.
And finishing quicker as well. 5.754. An improvement of 15 hundredths of a second.
Yeah, every little helps, as differing from the driverless Skidpad yesterday, the times, or the points that you earn by the Skidpad are actually relative to the time. So a very fast time in first place will obviously yield maximum points, but a second place that is a lot slower will proportionally yield less points as compared to the driverless discipline, where it is an even distribution across the present positions.
I have to say, we have not seen any of the driven driver yes cars beat the best driverless time from yesterday so far.
No, that's of course one of the interesting comparisons that we are looking forward to, especially once the faster driverless cars are rolling around here with a driver installed. Did already see 2 driverless cars come back with a driver today, if I'm not mistaken, Lisboa and...
I believe it might have just been Lisboa.
Well,
let me check that.
The best is yet to come. Stralsund could make it all the way to the front of the queue now.
I know, right you are. Fast Forest also participated in the driverless Skidpad yesterday. And both have managed to improve on their driverless times. So 2-0 for the drivers so far.
As you would expect. Pushing in front of Stralsund now is Ljubljana, car number 169.
Overtaking round the outside.
Round the outside, round the outside.
Final checks being performed, wheels being checked for their integrity. How would you call that, Jonas?
Well, it's a suspension check, seeing if the team fastened the wheels correctly, if anything is broken. We've seen the craziest stuff. A couple of years ago at acceleration, for example, we spotted that one of the teams had forgot to fill up one of the tires entirely with air. They were almost sent out with that. Here we're checking that the drivers are belted properly, some of the teams having to retighten based on the input of the officials so far. We're seeing the contents of the push bar crate being checked here right next to us. So it's just a general safety check for anything relating to the safety of everybody here on the track and the guy in the seat as well.
Or gal.
Funnily enough, the check here also includes a little bit of a stewardess briefing for the drivers themselves, where they're meant to go, where they're meant to exit, where they're meant to head, what the rules of engagement are here. From this low down, this infield just looks like a mess of cones, so being directed slightly is always appreciated.
And while we were talking, Jonas, another car has joined the queue. And it is, in fact, the fastest car from the driverless Skidpad yesterday, car number 120 from Karlsruhe. Looking forward to see how the driver compares to the autonomous system.
Absolutely. We didn't get to see a comparison between Karlsruhe and Aachen yesterday, but at least with a driver installed, I have some hopes that Aachen has better luck. I'm really looking forward to the comparison between those two.
Indeed, and of course all the other teams that either didn't participate in the driverless event or could not quite put a clean lap together yesterday.
Yeah, I also remember Trondheim struggling particularly with the turning part. They went straight twice in a row.
Yes, I remember Valencia similarly went perfectly straight. Delft, of course, struggled to complete their attempts, taking out some timekeeping equipment in the very beginning of the event. Once again, a very big thanks to our timekeeping people for always being prepared and setting the timing system back up, ready for the rest of the event in record time.
I can see one of the boxes from the timekeeping in the left circle still has the massive dent where the Delft front wing met its demise.
I think there's an equally sized dent on the Delft front wing as well.
Absolutely. Ljubljana, meantime, being shown towards the starting line.
Very smooth, very stable through the right-hand loop. And a very clean left-hand loop as well for a total time of 5.611.
Ljubljana opting as well to exit right after their first run. That reminds me that one of the differences, at least in my head, between driverless and driver yes is that we see the driver yes disciplines, or the cars, a lot more often. At least back in the good old days, there were 2 drivers and each driver got 2 runs. So we should see, in an ideal scenario, each car 4 times here today, which is interesting because the session itself is also relatively short. I believe we're closing this here at 11:30 today. A lot of jerkiness initially
from Stralsund,
but the driver got it smoothed out for the actual timed lap. That's the second lap every time the driver drives around in each direction.
There's that little flick of acceleration at the finish, Jonas, that you didn't get to see yesterday, as Stralsund makes it across the line with a 5.836.
Yeah, indeed. We were talking about all the little driver tricks that you can play at trying to eke out that little bit of extra performance. We did see some of the driverless cars pushing hard into some oversteering maneuvers on the initial laps, and pretty much driving at the vehicle limit, like what Karlsruhe managed to pull off and Aachen attempted. But that little flick as you straighten out on the straight is still missing from that code.
And Stralsund also choosing to leave after just 1 run. Is this a banker lap strategy, Jonas, that a lot of teams simply want to set a time as early as possible to have a valid time on the board, and then hope that track conditions will improve as more rubber and more sun comes in?
Yeah, it might be strategic decisions relating to the acceleration for some of the driverless teams anyway. That will start momentarily. Nevertheless, I think having 2 runs right after each other offers you some better opportunities. Maybe the tires are slightly warmer, the driver is used to it, etc. And only for the first run do the teams get priority in the queue. So judging by how many teams we've seen exiting immediately after their first run, I think we'll see one hell of a second and later run queue here later this morning.
Has there ever been a year in your memory, Jonas, that at the end of a given event, there was not a queue of cars still waiting when the gong rings out.
Not events with a driver in the car anyway. I do remember some driverless accelerations, I think, in recent years, where there was just crickets all day, more or less. Only a couple of cars were through scrutineering. Speaking of scrutineering, maybe you can check out the technical inspection status.
In the meanwhile, Karlsruhe very aggressive out of the queue into the starting area. Driver chomping at the bit. Perhaps some choice words were had in the camp yesterday between the driverless responsible and the driver responsible.
Car looks extremely dirty on the settling lap. I expect some good times out of this one.
A 5.162. The fastest time we've seen so far, but still not quite beating the autonomous version of the vehicle.
Well, it's happened.
And the Karlsruhe driver also electing to depart the event site, or not the event site, the Skidpad site.
I think very notable is the vigorous head shaking that the driver is doing, talking to their teammates as they pick him up. Who knows, maybe they were expecting a faster time and to uphold the honor of the drivers of staying faster than the driverless disciplines.
And while the queue is empty, I have had a little bit of time to look at the technical inspection status. Given that none of the teams have completed all 4 of their runs yet, let's just give a rundown of the teams we expect to see at least once more or for the first time today still at the Skidpad. Gdansk, Manresa, Rennteam Stuttgart, GreenTeam Stuttgart, TU Racing Team, Luebeck, Coburg, Tampere, Hanover, Oulu we've already seen once and they will be coming back. Ostrava from the Czech Republic, or Czechia as it's now known. Napoli, Stralsund will be returning, we hope. Malaga will be returning as well. Leganés, Valencia, Karlsruhe, we have just seen. And high-speed Karlsruhe should be participating as well. GFR from Corvallis University, Budapest. Who else do we have? TUfast Racing Team from Munich. Porto we've already seen and hopefully we'll see again. AMZ, Ingolstadt, Eindhoven, Konstanz, Fast Force Deggendorf we have seen and will hope to see again. Bochum, Lisboa, Dresden, Weingarten, Trondheim, Brno, Freiberg, DHBW Stuttgart, Ignition Hamburg, Formula Team Delft, Formula ETS from Montreal, Milano, Esslingen, Göteborg, Aachen. I'm sure you're looking forward to that one, Jonas.
Absolutely.
Innsbruck, Augsburg, Trento, Strathclyde will be coming back. Tallinn, who else do we have? Nuremberg, we've already seen. Göttingen, Ljubljana we have seen on their first run as well. And that is it for the cars that are completely through scrutineering. So all of those still need to make their way over to here and set a time. And who do we have that is very near the completion of the scrutineering? That would be Athens is very close. Wolfenbüttel from Westphalia is very close. Ulm is very nearly there, only half a sticker remaining. FaSTTUBe from Berlin, and I believe that's it. And there are a couple of other teams that, based on the stickers or the sticker options that I see, were originally planning to participate in the driverless events as well, but elected not to, and so will be participating in the driver yes component of the competition.
More good news from the queue. It looks like we have at least 3 contenders rolling up. The first one of which we've already seen yesterday. Napoli is back, one of the few combustion driverless cars that we saw yesterday. Again, the contest is on to save the honor of the humans.
Just to give a little refresher, Napoli set a 9.197 on the driverless Skidpad yesterday. Let's see how the driver will compare.
Yeah, it sounds harsh. The inspection sheet is a physical document that gets signed by the scrutineers as the cars complete the inspections required to be able to drive here at the competition sites. And yeah, one of the rules is that document has to stay with the car along with the stickers on the nose to prove that they are through scrutineering. They have to be able to present that at any time when they are within the dynamic area, and unfortunately the Napoli team cannot.
But I believe they sent one of their team members back to grab it, so hopefully we'll see them on the track very soon. We see that the timing screens on the track have been re-engaged, at the very least the right-hand one. In the meantime, we can see that in the queue, Deefholts have come back for, I believe, the second run of their first driver, as they are in the second run queue. And also in the queue, we have...
Hawks is back. They pushed out without a run earlier. Good to see them back in here. Also looks like the appropriate documentation has arrived for Napoli, so they are slotting in right behind Tampere at the front of the first run queue.
we can hear Tampere firing up. And making their way over to the starting line.
With the return of the second timing screen comes the entry of Tampere onto the right-hand side of the skidpad. Bit of a hesitation there, but no matter, the timed lap only just started. Sounds like very binary throttle input. Doesn't seem like the driver is able to hold it at one single RPM. But bit of a bouncy ride, but.
Is for them?
No, I carry my own.
And Tampere is setting a time of 5.488, immediately opting for their second attempt, perhaps anticipating the, wouldn't call it a bedlam, but the intense queuing situation I'm sure we will see in the coming hours. Setting off on their second attempt. The acceleration still sounding a little bit binary, but less so than on the first run, I would say.
Thank you, Tristan. Overall improvement though, also no cones that I could see anyway.
Yes, they were a little bit slower on their left-hand loop, but that was only by 0.002 of a second, but the considerable improvement on the right-hand loop gave them that overall improvement on their time. And I had a great pun ready as well, in case they had a bouncy skidpad attempt, but they were very smooth, so I might save it for later.
With all the documentation in place, Napoli sets off. I think there is a bit of a crowd gathered behind us. I think we might get some big cheers.
A 5.5 on the right-hand loop. And a 5.3 on the left-hand for a total time of 5.437. And indeed, quite a cheer from the Napoli faithful behind us.
If my memory serves me right, that is faster than their driverless time from yesterday.
Considerably so. Their driverless time yesterday was 9.2. Improvement on the right-hand loop.
Nervous noises emanating behind us. Considerably faster in the second run.
Yes, 2/10 up, a 5.266.
This is why I think that each team that does complete a first run should also immediately complete a second run. The driver is used to it, the car is used to it. Just keep it going. Next up, Hawks Hamburg. Again, a bit jerky on the throttle.
A little jerky on the steering as well. So a 5.9 on the right-hand loop.
Yeah, this car looks like a handful to drive.
Indeed. Following it up with another 5.9 on the left hand for a total of a 5.945.
Sub 6 seconds, still faster than some of the driverless runs we saw yesterday, so that keeps me happy. And yeah, perhaps the problems were too grave, the driver opting to exit rather than an immediate rerun.
And on the driver yes, driverless comparison, of the 4 teams we've seen so far that participated in both, 3 have improved on their driverless time.
Next up, Deefholt 122.
No, it's only 9:45. A 5.89 on the right-hand loop. And looking to be about the same on the left-hand, 5.87 for a total time of 5.879, but still in the sub 6 second range.
Very close. This is their second run of the day, so I would expect at least to see them at least 2 more times, and at most 2 more times. The queue has emptied a little bit. Not many teams have joined us again.
We see Strohm Söhne approaching for their second attempt. And the other team in the queue currently being given instructions to the driver.
I think that's Westfalia, car number 35.
That is Ostfalia. And in the meantime, I believe that is Coburg you can see in here ripping it around the test area.
I think we were commenting on that yesterday, either on or off mic, while they were going round and round as well. Stralsund now being waved to the starting line.
Getting a little wheel spin out of the queue and towards the start line. Some wheel spin on the start line as well, and starting their first right-hand loop. Right-hand time of 5.59. And with a low power slide, a 5.48 around the left hand for a total of 5.539.
I was about to say I hope the driver goes for an immediate rerun, but here comes the tricky part of having 2 drivers and 4 runs in total. If this was the first driver, then these were his 2 runs completed, so there was no option of immediately rerunning.
I believe that might have indeed been the case.
This is just part of the strategic gambles that you get to play as a Formula student team here. Things like the starting time, your technical inspection status, concurrent events like the driverless acceleration for the teams that participate in both, driver yes and driverless. Meanwhile, Ostfalia on track for the first timed lap. 5.44 settles it, yeah, pretty much in the middle of the field of what we've seen so far. Between 5 and 6 seconds. Average brings it down to a 5.33 though.
Yes, looked very stable around both halves. Seen a little bit of jerkiness from the steering input.
Yeah, stable and steady is the game here. The entire point of driving the Skidpad is to demonstrate the steady state turning performance of the car.
And yet another driver opting to leave the track after their first attempt. Could be that the rather empty nature of the queue is acting as a reassurance to the teams that they have a little bit of time to maybe make some setup adjustments after their first run. But given that the event will end in around an hour and a half, I don't expect this emptiness to last for very long.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe they know something that I don't, but I personally would opt for as many runs as early as possible. We've already had the driverless cars cleaning the track last evening. There isn't much of a rubbering in effect here. So I would tell all teams that are listening to me, if there is any at all, make your way out here, make your runs. The Skidpad is only open until 11:30. Right now the queues are empty, but it does take a while for the teams to make their way out of the pits into the dynamic area and then through the dynamic area here onto the infield. Especially if we're seeing empty queue time, it's very unlikely that small delays like what we saw this morning, a couple of minutes for the fire truck, etc., will not be added to the end of the time. And I believe, like yesterday, we will have the gong sound at the end of the event that will indicate that whichever car isn't moving under its own power at that moment will not be moving in that event anymore.
Maybe just to clarify a little more, only the car that starts their official run, official attempt before the gong will still be allowed to finish. It is not that the queue will be open until 11:30, it is that the starting line will only be available until 11:30. As we say that, we can see two teams make their way over into the queue, and I see a couple more being pushed in the background, maybe into the queue, maybe into the testing area, we will see. Who do we have there? Is that Coburg that we just saw on the test track?
Could be. It is hard to tell. Car number 270 anyway, since the team names are only, or university names are only printed on the side of the cars. We're looking at them more or less head on. We're struggling to identify. It's definitely a combustion car. Might very well be Coburg.
It is indeed Coburg.
Right behind them, car number 60. Also looks like a car that I should recognize, but don't. And indeed, there is many more joining now, at least two more. I think I see the white and blue of Hawks Göttingen and a red nose that could be anything from this distance.
Car number 60 is from Weingarten. Could the red nose be GFR?
I was going to say that. Then again, there are a lot of black, white and red cars around in the paddock these days. And especially if the teams keep stopping far away from us, far away from the actual front of the queue, this only makes it more difficult on us.
But they'll get here eventually. Seems our jubilation might have been a little premature, Jonas, as I don't see that many more cars making their way over here after that small flurry of activity that you mentioned a few minutes ago.
Yeah, nevertheless, 5 cars in the queue is pretty good. Coburg has made it all the way to the front now, receiving last instructions from the officials. Small complaints about the tightness of the driver belts being voiced. Of course, safety is always a concern. Making sure that the driver is strapped in tight also helps with performance usually.
The belts have been tightened. The engine has been started. And away they go towards the starting line.
Just like it's alluded to on the rear wing, Coburg car is pretty much always quite loud. As a last hurrah to combustion at FSG. Times are looking good too. Left side significantly faster than the right. Overall 5.33 is a good effort though.
And it seemed to me that the driver might have slowed down a little bit too early on the exit of the left-hand loop, so I'm sure they'll be able to improve in their second attempt.
And he's following our advice of immediately going for a rerun.
And meanwhile, there's some more purple for you, Jonas from Weingarten.
Yeah, Weingarten is purple, Luebeck right behind them is what we thought was the GFR car. Behind them in the queue is Hannover and Hawks Göttingen. Second right-hand loop from Coburg is looking significantly better. And interestingly, the left-hand side significantly faster than the right. Overall reduction of the time is always a good sign. Nevertheless, the performance should be more or less equal between left and right, so maybe that's something that the team can check out before their return with their second driver.
I believe that's something that is a relatively common trend for whatever reason, that the left-hand loop tends to be faster than the right-hand one.
Yeah, of course, another reason for that could be that the way the track is set up here on what is essentially a parking lot is, of course, also not quite even. There are a lot of bumps and scrapes in the asphalt here. There's elevation changes. The marshals definitely did try to set it up as good as they can, as strategically as they can, but it does not look quite even anyway.
Weingarten firing up or sparking up, not sure what the term would be for an electric vehicle, powering up and making their way over to the start line.
It's extremely quiet. Don't hear any engine, motor or gearbox noise.
Let's see, maybe it's silent but effective. So it looks like a cautious first right-hand loop. Speeding up on the time to 10. Even faster on the first left-hand loop. And even faster on the timed left-hand loop for a total of a 5.44. Weingarten also likes to follow your advice, Jonas, and immediately go for their second attempt. Improving by 0.2 on the right-hand loop. And by 0.3 on the right-hand loop, and that is a great overall improvement, a new time of 5.20. Here we see the last breathing Pegasus.
From Hannover rolling to the starting line. Luebeck have been pulled out of the queue to the side. It looks like the team members are trying to fix a few last minute things as Hannover sets off. This looks particularly smooth for a combustion car. We've seen some other combustion teams struggle a little bit with jerky steering and jerky throttles. But a 5.42 overall. Not bad for a first run.
Indeed.
Meanwhile, Hawk Göttingen, driver getting last instructions of where to go before he'll be let go momentarily. And there's more cars joining behind. I see Chalmers, car number 95. And the 225 car from...
I think it might be Sevilla, but let me double check that. Not Sevilla, Manresa.
Hannover going for the immediate rerun. That's what we like to see here. We expect to get this queue. We expect this queue to get incredibly busy later on today. Right-hand side already an improvement, though slight. And the left-hand side just as well, about a 10th down on their first run time.
And while cars are still being inspected in the queue, oh well, you see line.
Interesting thing I noticed about the Göttingen car is that they are two-wheel drive electric on the rear axle, but it's only one motor in the middle, so they have a bit of a differential setup. Good to see some similarities with the combustion car still. Right-hand side looked tidy, like I would expect. And I think that was one lap too much, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it might have been, because I see that the second timing run for Hawk has started in the timing.
Yeah. This is one of the common mistakes that we've talked about, not counting the laps correctly, judging by what is happening on the timing screens right now. There are at least some consequences. Second run might have been aborted with a DNF.
Well, we still have cars in the queue and not on the starting line. Let me give a small update on what's happening over at the acceleration track with the driverless acceleration. I see there are 6 teams that have attempted a run so far, of which 2 have been successful, and those are from the University of Lisbon with a 6.839 and from GreenTeam Stuttgart with a 4.397.
Speaking of driverless, a car that I definitely know is capable of running driverless, but has a driver installed for the Skidpad here, is Chalmers. So a very emotional last run of the day. They had just finished scrutineering and managed to snatch the last run of the day in the driverless Skidpad yesterday.
Less than a minute to go, they were on the starting line, and they managed to set the second fastest time of the day in just one attempt.
Which means that we're expecting great things to happen here.
Indeed. They had a 5.1 driverless Skidpad yesterday. Let's see how the driver can do.
Chalmers now ready, moving towards the starting line.
Any predictions, Jonas, on how they might be able to do?
I hope that we'll see the first sub 5 second time here today. But that's just my expectation. Of course, it's still up to the driver himself. Looks very fast.
Hugging the inside line very tightly, nearly touching the cones, but staying away.
Traditionally slower right-hand side, already looking very good. Left-hand side, also fast. Fastest time of the day so far, congratulations. I hope the driver goes for an immediate rerun to show us again how it's done. And indeed, Chalmers opting for the second run of the first driver immediately afterwards. As it gets very noisy in front of me from Manresa firing up.
Chalmers going quicker on their first right-hand loop and the second right-hand loop. See the traditionally faster left hand, improvement on the banker, and a sub 5 second on the left hand loop. And we see the timing screens are lagging a little bit again, but the time is a 5.01.
Close on the overall sub 5 seconds, but it's clear now that it can be done. So if we see teams like KIT return and some more of the teams that we announced earlier that could be running here, actually making a run. Manresa now at the starting line.
Manresa with a big burnout on the starting line.
Oh, quite a few cones being hit there as he slides out of control on the timed right-hand side lap. There's at least 4 that I can see that went flying. But as always, no guarantees on that one. And also the exit sign has fallen over, so the wind is picking up slightly here on the infield.
And picking up a penalty for itself as well.
And there's still a cone stuck on the front of the Manresa car. I think the driver is actually slightly out of position to be able to make it back to the starting line now. Track marshals are scrambling to get the cones back in place, and the Manresa driver is allowed to make an extra turn to line up correctly at the green flag.
And the queue looking rather bereft once again. I see there's one car near the back of the queue doing some final checks, car number 172. And there is one more entering behind them. Two more, in fact. Meanwhile, Manresa starting their second attempt. Much cleaner on the right-hand loop this time. A little power slide on the switchover. And across the line with a 5.67. See Hawks Hamburg coming back. Second attempt of the first driver. And in the first run queue we see car number 172 approaching. And one more behind them, can't quite make out the number. So update once they reach us. It is car number 111 from Trento. And behind them in the queue, car number 74. Yes, 74 from Brno.
Dortmund, who are first in the first round queue, being instructed to tighten the belts some more. The officials checking this very specifically. Giving the wings a wiggle, giving the wheels a wiggle. Making sure that nothing's blatantly broken in order to ensure that the event runs as smoothly as possible once the cars are running.
I see Dortmund has a TT Assen sticker on the back of their car, so I'm guessing they attended FS Netherlands this year.
Summary belt on the left side and the shoulder belt on the left side. Please tighten it.
Well, we have just over 1 hour to go on the Skidpad, Jonas, and I still don't think we've seen even half the teams that are eligible to participate.
Well, don't forget the extra 17 minutes. But yeah, indeed, the queue is looking rather vacant for the amount of teams that we would expect to be able to run. I do have a feeling that quite a few are within the dynamic area, judging just by the amount of people that are around.
Meanwhile, we see Hawks from Hamburg starting their second attempt of the first driver. Improving on the right-hand loop.
Yeah, it looks a lot steadier than their first run. They had a lot of jerkiness both in the steering and the throttle input.
Indeed, finishing with a 5.66. And their first run was a 5.95, so a considerable improvement.
Proves again that smooth and steady wins the race. Looking at the queue right in front of us, Dortmund is being checked for belt tightness again. Behind them, Trento is receiving the last instructions and checks from the officials as well, and Brno in third position is also being looked over already.
Brno historically, at least the way I remember them, more of a combustion team, right? Relatively early electric model from them.
Yeah, I think this is one of the transitions that you would expect to see, judging by the fact that this is the last year that we will see combustion cars at FSG. Make sure that you guys tune in for the historic acceleration this afternoon at, I believe, 4:30. Which is held to commemorate the last year of combustion here. The FSG organization has invited old teams that have cars, combustion cars that are still running, to come here, get through scrutineering one more time, and run at a competition again. At the drop of the beep from Dortmund, that signals they are ready to drive. The timing screens have also returned. I expect that we see live timing again, properly as the car is running. They're at the starting line now. One cone on the untimed right-hand loop. Does look very steady though, so I think in his second run this driver can do great things.
And across the line with a 5.46.
Thankfully, Dortmund going for an immediate rerun.
Much cleaner right-hand loop on this go.
Faster too, and this time without the cone. And the left-hand side is faster as well. That's over a 10th improvement on their previous run. Well done, Dortmund.
And while they were running, I see Karlsruhe has returned for the second attempt of the first driver, judging by the queue they're in.
Yes, Freiberg has also joined us here in the first run queue. And the second car joining the first car queue I can't quite make out yet, but Trento is ready for their first timed lap. 5.55, good start. Left hand side, again, we would expect to be slightly quicker than that, just due to the differences in track, and so it is 5.45 overall. Trento opting for the immediate rerun as well. Happy to see this trend. So and indeed they're able to improve on their right hand side already. This is great news for them. 5.25 is definitely one of the faster times of today. It's always good to see a massive improvements between the two runs, and with a little luck, if the queues will allow it, we'll see them back with their second driver again.
Yes, and that second attempt was followed with some great cheers from the grandstands. So the Italian teams continue to show great team spirit, which hopefully will infect all of the other teams as well.
Brno setting a very fast right-hand side time. Their first run of the day. And indeed, 5.15. That's in the top 3, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so. Only Chalmers and Karlsruhe have gone faster. Speaking of Karlsruhe, they are next in the queue right after Brno will complete their second run.
Times are starting to tumble, so does the time left in the event. We have just over 1 hour and 10 minutes. Queue is still relatively empty. So come fast, come all. Make your way over to the Skidpad. 5.08, further improvements. I think we're on track for something amazing here from Brno. Very close. This is undercutting Karlsruhe's time from earlier. So right now, this is second place.
Yes, only 0.07 behind Chalmers. And as Brno is exiting the track, Karlsruhe will be going on, followed by Freiburg, and then followed by Gdansk. And there is Luebeck making their way back into the queue in the background as well. And here we go, Karlsruhe lining up for their second attempt. Looking rather quick, rather stable. Not quite improving on their right-hand loop, 5.2. Not quite improving on their left-hand loop either, a total time of 5.18. See the driver of the kit car giving a bit of a disappointed head shake. But hopefully they won't keep their head down too long and the second driver will be able to push the car even further. Hear the track assistant sound from the Freiburg car, and they make their way on over to the starting line. Driver speeding up for the timed right-hand loop. Setting a 5.64. A 5.74 around the left-hand side for a total 5.69. Let's see if they elect to go for their second run immediately. Yes, they do. Let's see if they can improve. Improved time around the right-hand side. Looking smooth through the left-hander as well. And finishing with a 5.49, a 0.2 of a second improvement. Well done to the driver. Now see Hall Göttinger returning to the track. Looking not quite as fast as their first attempt, but still very smooth and steady. And I believe that is Formula student Team Delft entering the queue in the back, making their way over to the Skidpad. Meanwhile, a small update on the driverless acceleration. Still just the two cars from before, Lisbon and GreenTeam, with valid runs in that event. Now we see another combustion car from Poland, Gdansk, on the track. Sounding very aggressive around the right-hand side.
also quite a darty setup by the looks of it. Little bits of oversteer here and there. Very pointy nose, a very fast time too, 5.2. Another combustion car getting ready right in front of us here. Start of the queue. Luebeck finally made it. Their belts are adjusted appropriately. Being waved to the start line. We have Delft in the queue right behind, and Ljubljana in the second run queue as well.
Delft seems to have repaired their front wing pretty well after yesterday's date with the timing equipment. Luebeck going around a little bit tentative on the first attempt, not speeding up quite as much on the second loop either.
And the driver is exiting too early. He was missing his second left lap, which is unfortunately the one that is actually timed. So I think this will be a DNF for car number 250 for now.
Well, hopefully nothing wrong with the car. Maybe the driver just got a little bit flustered. Let's see if they go for their second attempt immediately or if they decide to leave. They have missed the fork, but it seems like they wanted to go for their second attempt. We see behind the Delft car, DHBW Stuttgart has lined up in the queue as well. So the teams are slowly but surely making their way on over to the Skidpad. Still not quite as many as we'd have hoped to see, though, Jonas.
No, indeed. We have 59 minutes left for the Skidpad event. And not nearly enough teams have joined the first or second run queue. We would be expecting a lot more teams than what we've seen so far. Ljubljana, meanwhile, is on track for their first right-hand side. This is the second run of their day.
Not quite improving on the right-hand side. Let's see what they can do on the left. Yes, improvement on the left-hand side and an improvement overall for a new time of 5.51.
Overall, in the sense that is their new personal best. Of course, we've seen close to 5-second times from other teams here today already.
Indeed, 5.01 from Chalmers being the fastest time thus far. What are some of the fastest times, Jonas, you remember seeing in previous events? What's the ballpark the best, fastest cars are aiming for?
It, of course, depends on the track. We're already seeing a big difference between the right and the left side here on this specific Skidpad. In ideal conditions, I would expect the fastest electric cars to hit the high 4.5s, low 4.6s. But this is the reason that there are different competitions, different surface conditions, different weather conditions sometimes, and only the times from that competition are compared to each other. So while I am a little bit sad that we're not seeing the super rapid times here today, it is still good to see the overall ranking of the teams.
Indeed, and the super rapid times might still be to come. The track is getting rubbered in with every passing car. It's heating up, not a cloud in the sky, and we expect it to stay sunny for the entire day.
Nevertheless, I wouldn't expect a huge amount of progression. It's been pretty warm here the whole week already, so the track temperature I don't expect to really vary that much. Maybe a little bit of a cleaning effect, but not too much benefit of waiting for the super late running. So again, shout out goes out to all teams who haven't run yet. make your way into the dynamic area if you can.
Yes, because even the slowest car that sets a time is faster than the car that has no time at all.
Exactly, a time on the board means at least some points for you, and some teams seem to have followed our advice. We're seeing Strathclyde again. Scott's rolling into the front of the second run queue. I see Hamburg in the distance, but that's not the correct order. Behind Delft is DHBW Stuttgart. Car number 289 from Ostrava behind. Car number 34 from Ingolstadt. Car number 131 from Berlin, and behind that is Hamburg. Delft is being shown the green flag though. There's 2 cones tripped on the right-hand side lap already. Otherwise looking clean and smooth though. Overall time 5.33. Of course that will be added with at least a couple of penalties. Penalty seconds, 0.2 per cone. But the driver is immediately electing for a rerun.
The driver already looking considerably faster on the first hand and on the right hand loop, at least from here.
Whack of oversteer on the exit of the right-hand lap.
4-wheel power slide on the changeover.
And that's a purple time for the day.
There it is.
First sub 5 seconds, as we've predicted we would be seeing. Just under 4.96, but excellent effort from Delft.
Let's see what DHBW Stuttgart can do to challenge that.
Yes, also the Delft driver, of course, I have to mention, managed to uphold the honor of the human drivers. He was faster than the few timed runs that we've seen from their driverless version yesterday.
Well, unfortunately, they didn't complete a valid driverless run yesterday, but comparing to the single loop times, indeed, the driver has been consistently faster than the autonomous version.
Right-hand side from DHBW is looking stable so far. I think the driverless that we saw from them yesterday was a lot more tentative than this. 5.22, good times.
Yes, I think we can expect that to improve if the driver elects to do the second run immediately. As indeed he does.
Sets off very ferociously into the second run. It does look faster than the first one. That's also reflected in the times, sub 5 second right hand side. I think that first attempt was more of a banker lap. Now really going to send it. And the Delft time, just as it was set, it was beaten, 4.93, the new fastest overall. Congratulations, Stuttgart.
Very fine margins at the top at the moment, only 0.03 of a second. So I'm sure the second drivers of both teams will be looking to push each other even further.
Strathclyde now on track. We saw them earlier today already. So far they are improving on their first attempt. And overall that's looking good as well, 5.58. Fired up right in front of us here is Ostrava. They're going to be waved to the starting line momentarily. And our predictions have come somewhat true. There is now considerably more cars in the queue. can't possibly see or name them all. There's so many team members and officials swarming around. But I think we'll be seeing continuous action from here on out until the end of this event in about 51 minutes. Strava looking nice and steady. Settled in, 5.97 on the right hand side. And like we mentioned, the time on the board is better than not having run at all. 5.98, one of the more steady times that we saw here today. But with a rerun, they could have improved potentially, but the team members and the driver are agreeing in hand signals that they should be heading out.
Now Luebeck returns for their second run. Unfortunately, they had a DNF on their first attempt, missing the timed left-hand loop. Very similar time around the right hand.
And just in front of the finishing line, it looks like the car is stalled. The driver does manage to complete a timed lap on the left-hand side this time around. So at least there is a time on the board.
He's trying to start the engine now.
Team members are being waved towards the center of the track. They're going to have to come and rescue their driver from the middle of the skid pad.
And does that also count as a DNF, Jonas?
Well, they did finish the run, so in my entirely unofficial opinion, this should count. They did manage to roll it across the finish line. Ingolstadt waiting right behind them. Once they clear the track, there's the next runner already waiting.
Ingolstadt driver power sliding on the changeover. Getting a little bit of oversteer around the first left-hand loop as well. More stable on the time side, and a great overall time of 5.15.
Yeah, that should definitely be enough for the top 10, if not the top 5. Don't have the scoring here in front of me. Ingolstadt going for a second run immediately, which is something I would recommend all teams do at this stage, since the queue is filling up rapidly. We have Hamburg waiting right behind them. I see Eindhoven and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cars as well. Big slide from Ingolstadt on the right hand side. This was the timed lap as well, so I don't think we'll see an overall improvement from them at this point. Managed to save it and not dislocate any cones though. So still props to the driver for keeping it nice and clean. Hamburg now on track. We've seen this car yesterday in the driverless skid pad already. Judging by how steady this car is though, and by the right hand side time, I expect big things. 4.96, that must be the top 3 now, settled well below the 5 seconds.
Yes, the same time as Formula Student Team Delft, 4.96. Let's see if they can improve on their second attempt. And just for comparison, yesterday's driverless time for Hamburg was 5.29.
It's good to see those margins come down, though. A lot of tire squealing. Right-hand side, below the 5 seconds already.
Yes, improvement on the right-hand loop.
Purple times again, as well. 4.92. New best time of the day. Congratulations, Hamburg.
Oh wow, and the queue is well and truly filling up now. Cars stretching all the way over to the entrance. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 cars in the queue with more on the way. And only 45 minutes of the event to go.
Nürnberg on their, I believe, second run for today, now on track. Shiny aluminium monocoque that we saw earlier already.
Great right-hand loop, 5.12. Very smooth through the left-hand side with a 5.04.
Right in front of us, the TU Berlin car is being readied.
Yes, with the transparent
chassis panels allow us to indeed confirm the driver is wearing pants. Behind them, I think Ostfalia is being readied for their second or third run of the day. We've got Eindhoven, Budapest, and a lot more cars in the queue behind that.
Eindhoven with their, I wouldn't say signature, but definitely distinctive off-center LiDAR for their driverless system. In the meanwhile, FaSTTUBe setting a 5.28 around the right-hand loop. And a 5.22 around the left hand, overall time of 5.25. We see the officials trying to hurry the queue along now, giving cars the green flag very quickly before the FaSTTUBe car can return for their second attempt. And this is the second attempt of Ostfalia we're seeing now. Not an improvement around the right-hand side, according to the timing. But they do improve on the left and improve overall 1/100th of a second faster than FaSTTUBe, 5.24. Who immediately get to go on their second run as well. And a massive improvement already, 5.15 on the right. And a 5.08 on the left, 5.12 overall. As Eindhoven is lined up and given the green flag.
Don't die here in the hot weather. Yeah. There's sunscreen at the scooty. Yeah.
Eindhoven on track, setting a bit of a tentative right-hand side.
Left-hand side looking a lot quicker, sub 5 seconds. If they can string two of those together, they, I think, would be on for, if not first, then definitely top 3 for the day.
Queue being held while the Eindhoven car is making its way back a little bit slowly, though they are electing for a rerun, as they should.
And an immediate green flag before they even come to a standstill. Again, a little tentative and exploratory. Ooh.
No, the car is slowing down massively on the right-hand side. again just before I was crossing the finish line.
No such trouble on the left-hand side, though.
Yeah, my guess would be that there is this problem is steering angle related.
4.82 around the left, though.
Proves that this car could go a lot quicker. They have 2 more runs from their second driver still in store, and at the moment the queue that is the fullest, well, by far the fullest, is the first run queue. Budapest now on track for their first run of the day, getting close to the 5-second mark again. I think this will be quite the shootout for the fastest times here today still to come.
Yes, I think the times might reach the 4.5 that you were talking about earlier, Jonas.
And as I was alluding to, I would expect in a perfect world the 2 times between left and right to match up quite nicely. And Brno is demonstrating that finally. Though we also talked about the differences in the track that would explain this behavior from the other teams.
Budapest going for their second attempt, looking quicker to me. Let's see if the timing confirms that. Yes, it does. 4.88 around the right.
Seeing the times really starting to tumble now.
Do we see fastest time of the day? Yes, 4.83 from Budapest.
That is rapid stuff. First time below the 4.9s now.
Now we see GFR, Global Formula Racing, rolling up to the start line. Now we have 2 combustion cars firing up in front of us. The famous V4 Rennteam engine. It really does sound spectacular up close, doesn't it?
It sounds spectacular, especially if you're standing right in front of it. Oregon seems to be having some issues. The GFR push bar being brought back to the car. I think they have to be pushed off course. As they were departing from the queue, they were already having some issues having to recharge the high voltage system. And now Rennteam is indeed being motioned to the starting line instead.
Approaching the starting line very rapidly.
Quick update on the queue. We have Gdansk, US Karlsruhe, Dortmund, and behind them TU Munich. There's a lot more cars in the queue.
Let's see how Rennteam will do on their first attempt. 5.12 around the right, very solid first try.
Yeah, traditionally we would be expecting the combustion cars to be slightly slower than the electric. Nevertheless, it's getting close to scratching those 5 seconds. Maybe in a second run.
And I believe that's Aachen a little bit further back in the queue, Jonas. Rennteam setting a 5-second flat around the right hand. Let's see if the left hand is going to be faster. Yes, it is. 4.97 overall. The fastest combustion time of today, I believe. Yes, it is.
That's good news.
And followed up immediately by another combustion car, Gdansk, on their second attempt. And right after them, it will be high-speed Karlsruhe, also a combustion car, doing their first try. Gdansk with a little power slide out of the right-hand loop, 5.19.
An ever so slight hesitation, but no matter, it was not the timed lap yet. 5.12, that's pretty good for Gdansk. Karlsruhe, meanwhile, stalled right in front of us. The officials really trying to put some shuffle in the slippers here in the queue. I think it's reaching off the infield into the dynamic area already. GreenTeam holding up the first driver queue slightly. Karlsruhe having to start again.
Karlsruhe lining up. Another combustion car will be going next from Dortmund. Karlsruhe looking pretty stable with the throttle and with the steering. 5.38 on the right hand. And yet again, another car faster on the left hand side. 5.24 overall.
Dortmund is at the ready, and behind them we have a bit of a gap to the front of the queue. I can see Munich, I can see a green car that isn't GreenTeam. So the current queue, car number 31, TU Munich, car number 48, TU Uni Bochum, car number 94 from Esslingen, car number 99 from Aachen.
In the meanwhile, Dortmund set a 6.34 on their first attempt, and high-speed Karlsruhe going for their second run.
Number 26, GreenTeam 124, Tallinn 395, Valencia 33, Zurich 330.
Karlsruhe improving significantly on their first run, setting a 5.03 as Dortmund is given the green flag for their second run. Low wheel spin off the start. Considerably faster on the right hand side, 6.00. Steady through the left hand side and improving there as well, 5.99, 6.0 overall. As now TUfast is given the green flag. Looking very rapid, a little too rapid, sliding out just a smidge.
Sounds like somebody has installed active aero for once. One of the few cars that we've seen so far from it.
You can see a dust cloud following behind the car.
Maybe the track wasn't so clean after all.
5.01 overall in the first attempt, but definitely looking very promising. I think will be one of the top contenders today.
You would expect so, though the vacuum cleaner doesn't seem to be doing all that much.
Now going for their second run, Munich.
Dyson blows again. Very fast right-hand side this time around.
Looking a little bit slower on the left. Almost the same time as the right-hand side, and a 4.94 overall. I think that's a top 5.
Top 5, fast but not the fastest.
Second driver still to come. Hopefully they will have enough time to do so. There is just over half an hour left to go.
32 minutes left. I think the pile of cars that we're now seeing in the first run queue will be back in the second run soon. Now on track, TU Uni Bochum. First run of the day, tentative 585. Across the line with a 5.79.
See the marshals electing to let teams complete their second run before allowing anybody else in from the queue. Bochum setting off, and a camera drone hovering above the skid pad, getting some nice footage.
The electric car from Esslingen making its way to the starting line, while Bochum finishes with an improvement in the second run, a 5.56. An interesting thing I just spotted on the Esslingen car was rear wheel steering. So I think this might be a contender for one of the faster times in the electric class.
Should I go? Oh, wait.
Looking good on the right-hand side so far, though there is a cone being clipped on the left-hand side. .13 is, I think, a banker lap for this team.
And I think the driver had to slow down a little bit on the left-hand loop because the cone they hit ended up in the middle of the track. As we see Aachen making their way to their first attempt.
Yeah, judging by the gusto that the driverless car was putting in by itself in the driverless kit pad yesterday, I have high hopes. 5.15 is a pretty safe right-hand side time so far. 5.22 on the left-hand side. 5.36 overall.
The throttle input felt a little jerky to me with the Aachen driver.
Indeed. A bit smoother though was the run from Esslingen. First time around anyway. Five dead and clipping a cone on the left-hand side again. So this time will also not be up there with the fastest.
Well,
but nevertheless, an average close to the 5 seconds is a good achievement here today.
As Aachen lines up for their second attempt. Écurie X, as I learned yesterday. A 5.22 around the right hand. And a 5.11 on the left, total 5.17. Dare I say, Jonas, that the autonomous system yesterday was a little bit more aggressive than the driver, a little too aggressive, unfortunately, but it feels that there's still some potential in that car that could be squeezed out.
Yeah, maybe. It's interesting to see that maybe an autonomous system is getting close to extracting more potential from the car.
Indeed. In the meantime, Green Team blistering across the track. 4.77 left-hand loop, fastest left-hand loop of the day. But the overall time, a 4.84, only 100th off the fastest time.
Yeah, since the two times are averaged together, it does not yield fastest time overall.
But given it was only a first attempt, I'm sure we'll see it improve on the second attempt.
It's definitely damn close. They are getting quite slow in the rerun area, taking their sweet time. There is a green flag now. Looking good on the right-hand side already. These are the times that I was expecting to see.
Positively rapid.
Overall, 4.64 purple times again. This is 0.2 faster than the previously fastest time. Here we go.
Let's see if anybody will be able to challenge that.
Talon is definitely trying. Their first run of the day.
It's looking pretty quick as well. 4.92 already. As TU Valencia fires up next to us. Talon, 4.83 on their first go, which is the same time that Green Team had on their first go as well.
Yeah, definitely seeing a lot of times very deep into the 4 seconds now.
as Valencia sets a 5.33 on the right and a 5.38 on the left for a total 5.36. And here we go, Tallinn going for their second attempt. Let's see what they can do. Looking very quick.
It is very quick, 4.76. That's getting closer to Green Team. And an overall fastest right-hand side run, 4.61. Again, the average preventing a fastest time overall, but nevertheless, great performance from Tallinn. I hope we see them in the third and fourth run again.
Yes, the second run queue still looking very, very empty. Still a lot of teams only doing their first attempts.
And there's 25 minutes left in the running for this event. Valencia getting their second run in.
Improving so far.
5.11, it's a better time for them.
And now we see AMZ making their way over to the start line. Also, you'd expect to be among the fastest cars, right?
I've sort of given up on trying to make predictions in the interest of not giving anybody the commentator's curse, but it does look very fast. Sounds fast, looks oversteery. 5.23. I think the tactic of a safe banker lap the first time around and then really pushing the second time is definitely being applied here.
Well, to be honest, it felt like they were pushing pretty hard on this lap already. Quite a bit of oversteer on the left-hand loop as well. I think if they keep it clean without any oversteer, they should be looking at sub 5 seconds.
Right in front of us, Akron is firing up. Car number 330 ready to join after what I think will be AMZ's second run. Right behind them is the ETS Montreal, car number 88. Trondheim behind that. And I can't really make out more cars beyond that, though there definitely are many more in the queue. Zurich setting off again. I think a bit of a settings change going on there, a slight pause.
So looking considerably more stable now, very little oversteer. And improving on the right-hand loop. Yes, and a sub 5 second left-hand loop as well for a total 5.05 on average.
Lots of noises emanating from Akron, 5.58 on the right-hand side. And they're able to improve with a pretty rapid left-hand side, I would say.
Yeah, close to the 5 seconds on the left.
The second run should be interesting. Driver stalling it on the return to the starting line for the second run. Brief hesitation here from the officials on which car should be getting priority, but Akron is giving a go-ahead. Right after them, Montreal is lining up.
Akron not quite improving on their second run, but very, very close to the first as we see Montreal set off.
Run it up, ready to race.
Montreal with a pretty good right-hand loop, 5.15. at a sub 5 second left-hand loop and a 5:05 overall, same as Zurich on their fastest attempt.
Now there is a bit of a kerfuffle in the queue again. Trondheim having to push to the side momentarily. I see now lined up Magdeburg, car number 20, Milano right behind them, Dresden. Behind Dresden, a car that we didn't see at the driverless Skidpad yesterday, but I would have expected there. Ulm. Furthermore, we have the TU Yassi, car number 17 from... I can't make out the team name or the university from all the stickers on the car, unfortunately. Car number 312 from Cadiz, 25 from Athens. GFR is here, and car number 249 from the US, Niederrhein.
In the meanwhile, Montreal setting a 4.94 on their second run, very good time.
Magdeburg, in the meantime, I think with a little bit of a driver glitch again. I don't think the... Hang on, what is happening? I think he forgot the left hand, forgot to finish the left-hand side timed lap. So I think the fourth run was missing, and now he's driving off into no man's land a little bit. So that's their second run DNF'd. Speaking of second run, we have checked again, and well, in our unofficial capacity, we've been talking unofficial business. There is no second driver for the Skidpad anymore. Times are changing on us here. So the two runs that we're seeing from each team are the two runs they get for the day. It's an interesting development. That means that the fast times that we've seen from teams like Delft, GreenTeam, Chalmers are probably not going to be improved upon very much. In the interest of keeping the flow here in the queue going and getting teams through in the last 17 minutes of the event as much as we can, Milano are having to push away. They had problems pre-charging. Trondheim is being given the go-ahead in front of them. Yesterday on the driverless Skidpad we saw this car going straight through. Unfortunately, the driverless system not recognizing that it was meant to turn right. I think the driver has got that nailed so far though.
looking very rapid through the right-hand side, 5.08.
.93, that's one of the faster times we saw today. My guess is top 5.
I wouldn't be too sure, actually.
We have seen too many sub 5 seconds already for that to be the case, I guess.
Indeed.
Dresden now in the first spot of the queue. Trondheim immediately given the green flag for a rerun.
And already looking considerably faster. 4.79 around the right.
That's pretty good. Left-hand side, probably faster.
A little bit wobbly going into it.
4.76. There you go.
Definitely top 5 now.
Dresden on their first run of the day.
Get ready to race position, please. Bring it on, everything on.
Dresden setting a 5.15 banker lap.
One of the few teams that's getting pretty closely matched left and right times.
Milano seems to be slowing down a little for the left-hand loop. A 6.03 overall on their first run, as Dresden returns for their second attempt. Dresden starting their second attempt.
Milano indeed must have had some kind of issue, vigorous head shaking from the driver and the team members. They still have one more run left, and the second queue, as well as the first run queue, are actually emptying. We have about 13 minutes left in the event.
Well, given the new rules that we were a little bit unfamiliar with, that does now seem to make a lot more sense. Ulm going for their first attempt. Big power slide on the first right-hand turn.
Good thing that wasn't the time lap yet. No cones were hit as far as I could tell. Definitely one of the more interestingly shaped cars, especially towards the front.
Yeah, very beluga-esque front nose, I would say.
Good time, 5.33 for Ulm.
Yeah, decent first attempt. As we now see car number 289 starting their first run. Sorry, their second run, the car from Ostrava. Ostrava improving on the right-hand loop. Not quite on the left-hand loop, but a total improvement for a new time of 5.84.
Waiting in the queue are Cadiz, Oregon State, US Niederrhein, US Munich, the car with the stickers, number 17.
Ulm, meanwhile, improving considerably on their second run for a 5.12. as car number 312 from Cadiz is rolling up.
And the last two cars I can spot in the queue so far are Strom Augsburg and Barcelona.
Cadiz setting a 5.96 on their first run, as GFR goes for their first attempt. GFR with a 5.49 on their first run, as Cadiz gets way forward for their second run.
Definitely one cone that I saw just fall over for Cadiz.
And an improvement overall for a new time of 5.68. As GFR begins their second run. Looking stable.
Again, that same cone, the first one on the left-hand side, taking a beating and lying in the way a little bit.
5.38 for GFR on the second run.
Yeah, time-wise, that's an improvement. I don't think that will translate into a faster time because of the cone that was hit.
True. As Niederheim begins their first attempt.
Car number 249, again with a bit of a jerky throttle and steering issue, I think. I would hope that in the second run the driver is able to control the car a little bit better. They got a safe lap in though, 5.67, their first time on the board.
Niederheim looking more stable on their second attempt.
But two cones sit on the outside of the left-hand turn, so I think their first time will still be faster than this. Definitely going over the timing line with a lot of vigor though. A whack of oversteer into the off-ramp.
You see car number 232 going for their first run.
Yeah, this is one of the cars where I was struggling to really identify who it is.
That's TU Yassi. I believe butchering pronunciations is really one of the key aspects of being a commentator, isn't it?
Yeah, especially once faraway countries are involved. This is a bit of a struggle. Just as it is completing the first right-hand side for the driver. Something definitely isn't playing along in that car. Very jerky, very slow. The uphill seems to be a battle for the team. Sounds like the engine is on the verge of being choked down.
Picking up a little speed there now. But the driver really seems to be feathering the throttle quite hard. Nonetheless, considerably faster around the left, with a total time of 11.3.
US Munich now rolling up to the starting line.
So I see Athens have made it through scrutineering as well, next in the queue. And Munich setting a 5.19 on their first attempt. And the queue has rather emptied out again.
Yeah, I think once Iasi gets their second run in, Munich will go. Then Athens are at the ready, Augsburg and Barcelona, and that's it in the infield here so far.
Well, there's only 5 minutes remaining, so I don't think we would have time for any more teams either way. In fact, I hope of course I'm wrong, but I'm not sure whether Barcelona will be on time for their first and second runs.
Yes, he able to manage to improve considerably on both times. Right hand side this time sub 10 seconds. And the overall 7.75. Congratulations on completing your Skidpad, guys. Munich being launched right behind them. .75, definitely one of the more competitive times we've seen here today. .88. I'm not making any predictions on the placement anymore, but good times, sub 5 seconds.
Top 10 is safe to say, but where in that top 10, I would not be quite sure either.
No telling. Athens set off with a great vigor though. And Augsburg is being readied right behind them. 5.33, a good time on the right side. 5.37 overall. Good first run from Athens.
Now Augsburg about to be given the green flag. There we go.
And I think it's pretty safe to say at this point that Athens, Augsburg and Barcelona are going to be the last cars that we'll be seeing on track here today.
Indeed.
The tactics of a banker lap and a fast one definitely being applied by Augsburg. I think we saw a lot more vigor from that car in the driverless event yesterday. Athens now out for their second run.
Just thinking, Jonas, given our misinterpretation of the rules and finding out that drivers only get 2 runs, it means that the driver from Karlsruhe did not manage to beat the autonomous version of the car.
Indeed, yeah, we gotta let that one stand. Athens, the second run faster than the first one. 5.22, slight improvement. Let's see if Augsburg can do the same for them.
Less than 2 minutes to go, but with Augsburg finishing their run in a couple of seconds, Barcelona should definitely get at least 1 attempt. Augsburg also improving on their second run, but not by too much. So maybe the first run was not a banker, but rather the car struggling a little bit on the day.
Green flag for Barcelona. I think this is the last run of the day that we'll be seeing here.
I think they'll get their second run. I think there's enough time.
Oh yeah, for sure. Both runs. But the last car.
Oh yes. Ooh, but I see one car trying to make their way into the queue.
I can tell that the Barcelona car still has the tire stickers on the tires. They're slowly being worn off and they're turning darker and darker. 5.54.
Less than a minute to go. I think Barcelona's second run will be the last. Which is unfortunate for the team making its way into the queue. Can you make it out who that is, Jonas?
I can't identify that from that far away. Barcelona, green flag for their last run.
It is the team from Wroclaw, making their way over to the start. But I believe we're going to hear the gong in a couple of seconds. There it is. Let's see how Barcelona does on their final run. They improve by 0.3. Good improvement. And that is it for the Skidpad event.
Indeed. Thank you everybody here on the grandstands right next to the infield and online. We're signing off from the manual Skidpad here today. The driverless acceleration event is still open for another hour on the main straight of the Hockenheimring. Yes. And we'll be back with more running this afternoon. We have the manual acceleration happening on the main straight at 1:30 until 4:30. We've got the driverless autocross at 3:30 until 6:30. That will be here on the infield where the Skidpad just was.
Yes, and the historic acceleration from 4:45 to 6 o'clock. Also on the acceleration track by the grandstand.
Be there or be square. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you later.
Historical event and they brought historical people. Classics, yeah, classics. Everything fine? Quite a better. It's always good here in Hockenheim. Oh yeah, with all the showers.
But they are not ready. They have not the belt was off.
The hair is coming under the helmet.
Use much more.
The only thing